Hello everyone, this is lesson 13, the ch13, Building Transnational Capabilities. This week we're going to do the readings from Bartlett and Goschel, Transnational Management, and my chapter on globalization of the South Korean chaebol. Now the reason I'm reintroducing the Bartlett and Goschel chapter is for us to understand if the South Korean chaebol now have transnational capabilities. What is involved in transnational capabilities or transnational corporations, and we want to examine whether the South Korean conglomerates or business group now have those capabilities. This chapter that I wrote on globalization of the South Korean chaebol traces South Korean government's globalization policy that was enacted in the early 1990s, and to see if there was any connection between government policy and South Korean chaebols as they went abroad in massive, major ways since the 1990s. So through these readings, I hope you will be able to understand or examine whether the South Korean conglomerates have now become transnational corporations. Let's look at the topics for this week. This week, as I said earlier, we're going to look at South Korea's chaebol's growth as transnational corporations. What is involved in being a transnational corporation? Do South Korean corporations have that capability? We're going to, in particular, focus on two cases, the cases of Samsung and Daewoo. Now, Samsung is a business group or business conglomerate that many people around the world know. I have taught classes in many different countries and gave special lectures. I often ask my students or audience if they know any South Korean business groups. Often their responses are overwhelming. They at least know one or two business groups, and it includes Samsung, Hyundai, and so on. So how did Samsung, which was a very small company that focused on consumer goods, in particular sugar, flour, cotton, textiles, how did that become a major conglomerate? I don't think there are many people who remember Samsung's history. So we want to revisit the case of Samsung to understand how a small family-owned company has now become a major transnational corporation. And then we want to contrast it with the case of Daewoo. Now in the case of Daewoo, this was founded in 1967 as a trading company that exported textiles to the US in particular. Now, the rise of Daewoo in the 1970s coincided with the South Korean government's policy to push forward with heavy and chemical industrialization. So if you remember the Daewoo name, it's associated with heavy industries, automobiles, shipbuilding, and so on. But that Daewoo, that famous Daewoo, which at one point ranked number 4 in South Korea, fell to bankruptcy in the late 1990s. So what happened in the case of Daewoo? The cases of Samsung and Daewoo will show us in a very stark, contrasting way how a corporation can become a business group and also fall because of some of its management policies and so on. In particular, the reason why I chose the case of Daewoo is because many people argue the primary reason why Daewoo fell was because of its too aggressive, excessive global outreach programs. Its global management strategy fell to its failure. So we want to examine these cases to understand the rise and fall of South Korean businesses. And finally, I want to touch upon the issue of what is the future for the South Korean conglomerates. Are they becoming major transnational corporations? Are we going to see more major business groups from South Korea entering the global market? So again, the key concepts that we're going to address this week are global management, transnational corporations and multinational corporations, South Korean chaebol as transnational corporations, and finally, we're going to touch upon the issue of corporate social responsibility. Corporate social responsibility refers to a private enterprise's commitment to society to help solve some of the social problems. Now, we want to see if South Korea's business conglomerates are engaged in corporate social responsibility. Are they interested in this? What are they doing about it? And so on. Now, this concludes this week's lesson, and this is the final session, so I hope you learned something about South Korean businesses and globalization through this class. Thank you very much.